everyone. Okay, so calling the meeting to order. First agenda will be to appoint alternates to sit at the table and vote. I know that Matt's position is open and Michelle will not be here. So in the interim, Heather's going to do the minutes. So I would like to move that Heather make a motion for Heather to vote this evening.
Patrick?
And Patrick. Is there a second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So Patrick's at the table. Okay. Doug, if you want to sit up here, you're welcome to. Okay.
Let's hope not.
Okay, so you have a packet in front of you with some materials in it. You've seen the minutes before. I added some other things that are going to be discussed tonight, some just for your information and some to ask for feedback. So the first item is the public minutes, which are in your packet. These were the ones sent to you by email on Monday. If you have any additions, edits, changes, please speak up.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Sorry.
Is there a sec, oh, Lisa second, all in favor?
Or
Well,
discussion
Oh,
or
discussion,
comments?
I'm sorry, discussion or comments, anyone?
Seta Detzel's name is spelled right in the guests, but it's spelled incorrectly in the first line of,
Oh, okay, that's all. Okay, thank you. Any other discussion or edits or changes? So there's a motion to approve as amended.
Yes, I accept that. Second, my second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. So one change, one edit, and the vote was 7-0. Okay, next item. I have a request for you folks to approve the expenditures to reimburse me for expenses over the last month. $24.44 from both Walmart and Dollar Store for office supplies. I've been using folders and copying paper and stuff. And the other one is gloves purchased for the roadside cleanup from Amazon. Got 36 pairs. That should last us a couple of years. And that's $46.97 for a total of $71.41. The Dollar Store and Walmart will come out of the office supplies line in our budget, and the the gloves will come out of the events line in our budget. So do I have a motion?
move to approve such expenditures.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The next expenditure will probably be coffee and donuts for roadside cleanup.
We'll be the judge of that.
Yes, yes. Well, if you have specific donuts or coffee you prefer, happy to do that. Okay,
Can I just get the
You
Amazon
might be a
amount?
latte.
yes. Here,
You might be a latte guy, right?
I think you know me better than that. I think you knew when you asked.
I think the Amazon is attached, Heather.
Okay, I didn't get the breakout of the Dollar Tree was.
Store 1750, 1694.
As long as it doesn't have any milk in it, lattes are okay with me.
It's like the whole part of a latte. I don't know if you could do. I don't know if you could do that.
Thank you, Heather. This will go to Jillian tomorrow to cut this
Yeah.
out.
Might just be coffee at that point, but I think that might be the point.
It might be.
Just to note, we have no speaker this evening. We're on our alternate month schedule. But reminder that May speaker is Green Snow, Lee Cooper, and the group from, I think it's UNH EDU. Just to remind you that that meeting starts early in May. We're going to be starting at 6 o'clock to give them more time at the beginning of the meeting to follow through and to present and to answer any questions. So that's a reminder. I don't know if Bruce Stevens is back yet, but he was coordinating the communication with other committees, and Doug Finnan's part of that as well. So
He
as soon
put
as,
something out in the newsletter about it.
okay,
Well,
okay, good.
We have our select board person here. They're interested in coming. Sharing information on the meeting with them. They're interested in coming.
To the select board?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'll make the announcement, for sure.
Good.
What are we talking about?
The Greens.
Green Pro.
Green
What would
Snow.
this, yeah, I thought so. So what does this have to do with the select board, though? Just to advertise that they're gonna speak?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
just,
You'll promote it to the,
I'll promote it. Be like the sales guy.
Well, it's been pretty well promoted. I think it was in the newsletter, but wasn't there a nice
Yep.
spread in newsletter on it? And that's cool. Yeah.
do you have to vote to?
Might as well get the
do
whole
this?
town here.
To implement it, or to go ahead for the select board? Do they have to vote to implement that?
No,
Okay. Okay.
to implement the
Green
presentation.
Snow program?
No, to validate that they're going to do it. Is there any question about that? No,
You talking about the program?
yes,
Or
no, the actual.
Presentation?
No, the actual implementation of green snow in our road system.
Oh, okay.
I don't
I see
know.
what you're asking. I think that would probably be something that we would do, in conjunction with Highway Department and, as best practices. I don't know that we would necessarily need to vote on that.
Okay.
But let's hear the presentation, and then I presume from there, it would be something that, Highway would want to implement.
Okay. We'll skip June, but July is up for grabs. And Bob, did you say that you might have someone, or was it someone else who said they might have someone for July?
You had mentioned NRCS. Bob had said he has a contact there that he might contact. But then we also talked about easements with
Anna,
Anna.
Yep.
So I don't know what was the final
Okay.
conclusion.
I think it was still open, it was still up in the air.
Yeah, I forgot to call my friend, so I'll give him a call and this is July we're talking about?
Yep,
Okay, so there's still time to
oh, yes,
suss it out?
yep.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
If we can, if I can't do it, then we can
We'll
do the
talk
other
then.
thing, the
Okay.
easement thing.
Okay, now we're into, if there's nothing else under guest speaker, into old business. Since the select board, we went public at the select board last month with the purchase of land off of South Road, the Noonie Munger land, which is 11.21 acres. Since that time, a lot has happened. In your packet, if you want to look at your packet, you should have sorry, you've got the,
Frisbee it too.
yeah, oh, here's a full packet for Jeff.
I just gave him a whole packet.
Well, there's one.
Yeah. I'll
Yep.
take this.
So, the Phase 1 report is required, and we hired Tom Ford Environmental Services. The property was walked, and the report was received last Thursday. The language coming back from that is that further environmental assessment on the subject property to complete all appropriate inquiries is not warranted or recommended. So it came back clean. If anyone's interested in the report, I have the binder here with all the pages, all the maps and everything else. So timing has worked out for that. So he hustled that along.
Did we get any, does it come electronically?
It does.
Oh,
I can send that
would be
electronically.
interested. I've never really seen one, just to
It's amazing.
peruse
It is amazing to look through that, or the appraisal, just the details, the maps and the sources that they both used. He actually included a lot of pictures in here going back to the 1940s or 50s from aerial photographs that the U.S. Air Force took. And the property, it shows pretty much the same shape with wooded edges, then open field in the middle. The pond did not appear until the early 70s. So that is a man-made pond. And actually, Chad had pointed that out when we did the walk. He says there's a ridge around it, so this has to be a man-made pond. Second discovery was, I think, in the 1960 photograph, which is in here. There's a barn in the lower corner right by Hague Road, just over the property line from the house that's on South Road. There's no evidence of it still being there, but you can see the outline of a building. So some interesting discoveries, knowing that he was very thorough in searching way back to see how the use of that property, how the property was used, and if there were any structures or any concerns on that. So it's very informative. So I will, if everyone wants it, I'll just send it electronically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Will do. Okay, I'll put this all back here. Okay, so that went on. Okay, next, last week and again on Monday or Tuesday, Andrea Hansen, our new town administrator, and I had a telephone conversation with Renee Huillier, Huillier, at Divine Millimet, the bond counsel firm that we use. So we described the project, went over that basically. Then yesterday we talked more about the details, and she provided some information. So there's a required schedule in your packet. These are the things that the New Hampshire Bond Bank will require. It outlines the entire schedule until you make your first payment. We're still going to have the application in by April 25. So I just wanted you to be familiar with all the steps that need to happen over the next 5 months, 4 months. So that's information for you to know what happens in this process, which is very detailed. Okay. And one of the things that Renell states, according to the requirements, and there's another sheet in here, I can find that. This is Tom Ford. The requirements by RSA 36A:4 checklist. She's going to provide the evidence that the town have adopted all the principles of RSA Chapter 36A. And this means we have to do a warned meeting. We have to do a public notice that we are recommending. The Conservation Commission is recommending the purchase of this property. And I've got some language here to read to you. This makes it official because the last time we met, it was still in non-public, so we have to do this publicly. We talked a couple of times about moving this forward, approaching the select board, but now we have to make a public declaration, so it matches what's required. So the language that I am thinking about, or recommending, I drafted is, quote, motion to recommend to the select board the purchase of 11.21 acres of land for conservation purposes located on the northeast side of South Road, comma, tax map 222.005, comma, currently owned by the Nooner Munger Revocable Living Trust, comma, using $225,000 from the conservation bond approved at the March 2022 town meeting.
The only suggestion I would make is maybe approximately 11.21 acres or something, just in case.
Okay.
I don't know if it could change or.
That's what the tax assessor has, and I think that's what this survey, but
I don't know.
No, everything that's written on a survey plan says plus or minus after
oh,
the.
it does, okay, plus or minus?
Does it have to be done before the 25th?
She is,
For the bond?
yes, to get this set up, the timing is yes. And she knows we did all of this in non-public for a long time.
Yeah.
So she says, I understand, but let's get this done.
Yeah.
And it needs to be a public hearing, like a posted,
And there
like
will be a,
notice.
after this, there will, and that's my next agenda item, the public hearing. So we have to make this recommendation. I know the select board has already discussed it, but this is a formal process that we have to make this on record so that we match the criteria.
So I'm sorry, does the motion have to be made at a public hearing, or
No.
the motion is before?
We do it at conservation, and then there is a public hearing where it will be discussed.
So moved. Oh, sorry, discussion.
Paul?
So the select board has already approved the purchase. And that happened at a meeting already.
But I think you will have to make it when you sign the application? I think there's another step in there somewhere.
I'm not aware of there being another step. I mean, I know like as part of the purchase and sale,
Okay,
that, the conditions were that both bodies, the select board
Okay.
and the Conservation Commission, approve this in public. So
okay.
we've done
You've done
that
that.
already in public, and now, it would just be our turn here, I think, to do so in public. I know we've spoken about a public hearing and whether or not that's necessary. I mean, I can't find, anywhere in the language, that it is necessary. I know it's necessary if, for example, we're using the bond for the purchase. I'm sorry.
Conservation fund for the
Yeah,
purpose.
the conservation fund, thank you, for the purpose, but, for the purchase, but that's not, what we're doing here.
She said something about RSA 675 dash, but.
Right, which I think deals with the conservation
Yeah,
fund. I'd looked at that before, so
I mean, this is our bond counsel advising us on this.
Yes.
I mean, I say we just follow bond counsel.
Is it
if we,
part-
wa- if we want to set a public hearing, are you gonna have to do that
Yeah.
before the 25th?
do we have enough time? Right, you need a certain number of days for public notice.
right, so to segue onto that, yes, she is recommending that we hold this public hearing. And I provided language for that. I think that's in your packet as well. This is the next item in your packet. It's the language based on what they did for Fuller. Bond counsel has looked at that. I have one question to her right now to see if the language works, but she's approved everything else. She made a couple of suggestions. So if we move tonight to,
Looks like there's a 10-day.
there is a 10-day. You can't count the day it's posted, and you can't count the day of the meeting.
Yeah.
So there has to be 10 calendar days between that. And Andrea's checking on that. She contacted Rennell again for the specifics, and she contacted the Manchester Union leader. If she sends this in tomorrow, this notice, it will appear Friday. And so we could meet on the 23rd of April, the 25th of April, I think it's the 23rd, we'll verify that, or the 25th, which is a Friday, or Monday, the 28th. Rennell is pretty firm in saying you really should do this in April. The issue was mentioned that the select board only meets every other week. So you had suggested that we do our public hearing on the same day as the next select board meeting, which the time frame doesn't work for your next meeting because it's only like 8 days till your next meeting, not enough. So it would have to be May 6th. So we're going to check with Rennell to see if you want to do it on Friday the 25th, Monday the 28th, if those days work, or wait until May 6th when the select board meets. When we did Fuller, we did it on a Tuesday at 5 o'clock before the select board meeting, but that worked for this Fuller process. Bob?
What is the objective of the public hearing?
It's a requirement
Well,
for public notice, since we've been doing this in non-public, and it authorized, the commission has to express, I've got the thing here.
It's to give the public an opportunity. I mean, it's
Yeah.
generally
Right,
what.
but there's going to be no, yes,
Right.
I think that's right, but
Yeah.
there's going to be no vote here. In other words, if, it's going to give the public a
Public
chance.
chance,
all
yes,
right.
yes,
But the select board has already voted to approve this.
yes,
Right.
And this is on our agenda for today.
yes.
So why can't we call this the public hearing right here?
We didn't have a notice.
So this wasn't, this,
Publication,
so,
like a widely distributed publication or something, right?
Yeah.
all right,
It
maybe
has,
so. Is this, were these minutes posted to our website? I mean, is this agenda?
it was, but it was only posted on Monday. It doesn't
And
meet.
so how
the
long is this
10
supposed to be posted for?
It's, I think, 10 days, not counting
Okay.
the,
I mean,
the
normally,
posting.
we would always have to do like the Carriage Town News in
Yeah.
addition to our local.
Our website, yeah.
Yeah, for a public hearing, a notice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Paul's raised some excellent questions here, and we've already voted on this as a town to spend the money, and there's nothing in the warrant article that calls for this. Now, I understand why some instances might require a public hearing to bond a
Mhm.
project or bond, but we have already approved this as a town, and we've given the Concom, in that warrant article, we gave the Concom permission to do this. So I don't recall seeing anything along the way in the process that requires this.
The statute would only require it if the conservation fund was being used.
That I
There is a-
get.
yeah.
Did
That I
we not
get,
tap
and that makes
into it
sense
to
to me.
pay the survey fee?
Yeah, but that's
But
separate, that's an
that's separate.
ancillary expense.
For any
Okay.
goods, for
Yeah.
any goods and services, all it takes is a vote by the Conservation Commission to expend money from the Conservation Fund. It does require a public hearing if you're using the Conservation Fund for the purchase of an easement or a land.
Right.
But we went over this with Rennell on Tuesday, and I know that when we did the Fuller, and the Select Board approved it, and the Conservation Commission approved it, the hearing for the Fuller bond was not held until June of 2024. So it was after all of that was done, but it was still required.
Yep.
I think
Yeah,
Rob's
I-
point is a good one, that maybe we should just do it anyway.
Right.
I would highly doubt this is required, but there's no harm, I guess, in presenting it to the town if the
Yes.
schedule allows.
I don't know the rules, maybe it's best management practices, and it's not I mean, I would just, if the bond council is
Yep.
saying for us to give you a good opinion,
Yep.
this is what we would suggest you do, and it costs $50 to file an ad, I say we just do it, and
Probably
I don't
more
know.
than that, especially in the union leader. But yeah, I couldn't find it in the statute, so I didn't think it was necessary. But as you know, if
I have no idea.
It's probably not necessary, but
Right.
maybe it's a good idea to just give the
well, as you say, it's no
townspeople.
no harm.
Yeah.
No
Well,
harm.
it might be a good idea to give the townspeople a way to weigh in. It's not binding. Nothing that happens at that meeting is binding unless, except what we
You know, we
decide.
we
right?
talked about Fuller for more than a year, but this has been sub rosa until the last meeting. So it's been pretty much in confidence. So this does give the public a chance to voice any concerns or questions.
Well, and he gives you a trophy to hold up to say, we have gone way beyond their requirement. Everything
Yeah,
under
Yeah.
any circumstance.
yeah, we've done what you've asked for, yes.
I'd agree with Doug that it gives us an opportunity to have the public look at something we're doing and be proud of.
Mhm. I see a hand in the audience. No, no. And I
Part-
don't
part-
recall ever being charged for that for Fuller.
Is it a budget item? It should be. It was previously.
Yeah, we used to have postage and mailing fees. Budget, I think it might be down to $1.
I think it is down to $1.
We have plenty of money in the budget.
And I don't recall seeing a charge to posting for Fuller in the budget, the '24 budget. I can ask the question, but
Budget, training.
Picked up under the town line.
Yeah, so advertising.
Government.
Oh,
yeah,
it dropped because we hadn't used it in a while.
$50 for
Yeah.
postage.
we'll still post it on the bulletin boards in here, and Andrea said she'd put it on the website too. So once it's all public, then there are a number of ways people can read about this and have the opportunity to come to the meeting and voice any concerns or questions about it. So we're doing, yes,
I think given we have one day to make this posting and probably figuring out the answer to all these legal questions is not gonna occur, that we should move forward
okay,
with, first, I'd like to make the motion that you first suggested prior to the public hearing, about the Conservation Commission recommending to the select board. You have wording for that, I think.
so that first
Your
motion,
internal motion first.
yes, the one I read to you,
Yeah.
yes.
Do you need that, Heather?
Do you want me to read it?
Copy?
I will give you a copy. Okay, there.
Honestly, the way I would phrase it, this would just be a friendly, you know.
This is on the first
Yeah,
internal
the
motion.
way- I know.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would phrase it as a motion to approve and proceed with the purchase, which has been previously approved by the select board for the purchase of the approximate 11.21 acres. And then, the remainder of the
So, do you want to phrase that?
Sure.
Second Paul's motion.
Motion to approve and proceed with the purchase previously approved by the select board for the purchase of approximately 11.21 acres of land for conservation purposes located on the northeast side of South Road, tax map 222.005, currently owned by the Nooney Munger Revocable Living Trust, using $225,000 from a conservation bond approved at the March 2022 town meeting. There you go.
Okay.
Okay.
I'd like to discuss it when it's appropriate. Do we need to be clear that this is to ease for conservation? Because the warrant article is clear that that's all it's to be used for.
Say it again?
In the motion,
Yeah.
should we said for conservation purposes,
Purposes.
but I don't know what that means. Do we need to be clear that it will be eased for conservation?
It's not easy.
No, it's
in
not.
these, it's in the deed.
Well, it's the same. That's the same thing to me. Yeah. So in the deed, it will say,
It will see for conservation purposes. yes.
and that's in there because the seller is
No,
No,
that's our language,
Our language to meet,
the requirements of the warrant.
okay.
Yeah.
Does that work for you, Counselor?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. What's your concern about conservation purposes is that the concern on your end?
Well, I'm concerned with in posterity, how folks might interpret that versus if there's an easement in the deed or language in the deed that says conservation or for exclusively for conservation or whatever, that's emphatic. But, I mean,
I think the deed, well, the purchase and sale says for conservation purposes, and then the intent is that the deed would say for conservation purposes.
Yeah.
And it's not an
Okay.
easement, it would be a deed. Just
We're
to be-
buying it
Just to be
outright.
clear, we're buying it outright, fee simple.
Yeah. Yep.
And we have talked about that quite a bit, and I concur with Bob for the protection and maybe
Yeah.
even like to pick up on his point, like a conservation purpose is consistent with the 2021
Yep.
or 2 open
Yep.
space bond guide, criteria or something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Somehow even reference.
Yeah,
more
'cause there's a lot of
specifically.
Subnotes in
Yeah,
this.
because future generations could interpret those
Yeah.
generic words very differently.
Yeah.
Was
Yep.
there criteria in there that
It's
needed to
just-
be referenced?
It just, well, it talks about the term of the bond, the expiration of the warrant or the bond. Purpose is to conserve parcels determined by Conservation Commission to be a strategic conservation interest to protect wildlife habitat and water resources while helping to maintain the town's rural character. Where practicable, such land would be made available for use by the citizens of the town for recreation, hiking, biking, running, hunting, fishing, within the laws of New Hampshire. Use restrictions may be imposed by the town, however, after purchase to comply with future grants, easements, and/or sale of property rights. So once we have the purchase complete, then we can determine and specify in the warranty deed the uses and the specifics. That's my interpretation of this.
I mean, my suggestion would be to use conservation purposes and tie it to, as you said, the bond, because
I like that better.
yeah, if you start putting all those words in a deed, it's gonna be a bit much.
Yeah.
No, I think Rob nailed it.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's
You
see.
could say conservation purposes as referenced in the 2021
Warrant.
Yep.
can I take a picture of their wordage?
Yep.
And then it's basically just starting with the motion to approve and proceed with the purchase of the property previously approved by the select
Yes.
board,
Yes.
and then into what she had.
Yep.
Correct.
That's perfect, because it's what the town voted on.
Yep.
So I just want to honor that.
Thank you, Heather. Okay. So, let's see. So the motion, we have a motion,
You have 2 motions.
2 motions, so it's the second motion with the language that Paul has, and you've recorded, and there was a second, Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, but who seconded? Sorry.
I did.
Thank
Or,
you.
Yeah.
Whoever.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. To continue with Noonie Munger, Town Council is working on the title search. It's
Did we
in
establish
process.
the date of
public
public
Oh, the date
hearing?
of public hearing.
That
Thank
was when
you.
I said there's a second motion. That was what the other one was, right? You had two. We
Yeah,
had
and
two
that's,
items out here.
yeah. As soon as,
Tomorrow? Is that what you said?
I don't know what the rule is, no.
So-
You had some dates.
we have the 23rd, which is a Wednesday, if that meets the criteria, if she can post it by Friday. That's the concern, that it has to have so many days. If not, the Friday, the 25th, or Monday, the 28th.
And do we have to have a quorum there?
We had a quorum at the Fuller. There were 4 of
I'm
us
just
there.
saying, do we need to make sure 4 of us could show
We'll be
up?
there, yes,
Okay.
yes. So do you have a preference for the date? The only thing going on Monday, the 28th, I think ZBA is meeting on the 28th, at least that's what the calendar says.
Well, only if there's an application.
Only if there's an application. Friday, right now, the calendar in town is vacant. The 23rd, I think there's one other meeting, and I do not remember if that's recreation or something else.
Can we do it on the 26th at the town cleanup?
That is. Do it in the rec building or the
9
in the
o'clock
pavilion.
under the pavilion,
Pavilion.
or whatever time we're meeting. I'm just saying, there'll probably be 4 of us there.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
Gonna be there.
I can bring a projector.
I will not
As long
be
as-
there, but that's okay.
as long as we don't need, like,
Gotta
the
be out of
internet.
Do
town.
you need a projector?
And the
I don't-
question, will the public be there?
That would, it also give logistics trouble to present it to the town and brag about it and all that.
Okay.
Unless you're talking about doing it inside at the rec center.
Oh, no, I didn't know if anyone would even show
It's a
up.
good
so-
idea, but,
And you'll have the hard copies of a drawing and be like, this is what we're,
yeah.
Here's our town map.
That's true.
Here's the property where it looks, here's. I'm a bit, yes, so your dates were the 23rd, the 25th, or 28th?
Yes, if the
So-
23rd is possible. It depends on when this is posted. And Andrea's in touch with Manchester Union Leader about the date.
I can't do the, okay, the 25th, I'm out. Not that I have to do it. And you can make all those dates.
I can
so
make all
that's
those
one.
dates. I can make all those dates. Who else could make any of those dates? Lise, it's 2.
I could do 23 and 28.
I could make it if I had to.
On any of those dates.
I don't
think
think the
so.
alternates count.
I think I can make all those dates, but I'm on call, so
Okay,
who knows?
okay.
I can't do the 25th. But again,
No,
don't-
okay.
doesn't matter.
So
If you have enough
um,
people, you have enough people.
I could get Michelle. We'd have to pull Michelle if she could do that. Doug, you
too.
could? Doug, okay.
I can do
Sounds
that.
like we got plenty.
And
of
Patrick,
time
okay.
Every day.
Okay, so every day we could do that. Okay, so let me check with Andrea in the morning. I will give her our motion to approve and make sure she reviews this posting one more time to make sure it's all according to Hoyle. Is that the word? According to Hoyle. And then I will let you know what date works because of the posting. Okay? Okay. So that's that. Okay, great. Title search, as I said, Town Council is working on that right now. I don't have a date for that, but this is unfolding. This will just continue. I'll check with Andrea tomorrow to see if she's had an update on that. She gave it to them about 10 days ago, so we'll see. Next item under this line item is, well, maybe I'll skip just a bit. I'm going to go to the use of the conservation fund for the services and goods, for the transaction cost for this. As you recall, in the budget that we presented for this project, the anticipated costs were, there's the bond letter. Okay, as you recall, the original auxiliary cost, in addition to the 225, was $23,100 with all the different categories: appraisal, environmental, title search, recording fees, municipal bond council expenses, Andrea, et cetera, Anna working on this. Went through this again. There have been a couple of changes. We said that was a draft budget. So right now, the original 23,100, we've already used 3,000 for the appraisal, so that's paid for. Bond counsel, their fee, we had estimated at $7,500 because that's what they charged us for Fuller. But I got the figures this morning. It's 4,000 to 6,000, so I'm going to use 6,000 as the figure for that, just to provide the cushion. So that's removes 1,500 from it.
Well, I'll do it for 4.
You'll do it for 4.
Wow.
Okay.
I'll do it for
I won't do it. You don't want me.
3,999.
Paul's actually an attorney, so
I would, but.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Conflict of interest.
Yeah,
When
would
you
be a
s-
problem.
When you see the documents that were with the Fuller thing, is just amazing, the amount of documentation
Are
that
they
is
giving
required.
it to us for a lower amount because the fee purchase is
Yes,
easier than an
it's
easement? and
different than
things?
an easement, so it's a lower cost than the Fuller was. So, and then since we already have a budget with Anna's fees in the budget, I'm removing that from the transaction cost because we have accommodated for that in our annual budget. So that brings it down to about $16,400 in auxiliary fees or transaction costs. Environmental, recording fees, title, municipal bond expenses, and any legal expenses. So it's been reduced. So I'm
How much was the environmental? Did you get that?
Site assessment.
3,000.
And we had talked,
I thought that was the appraisal. Or am I
Both,
confusing the
no,
two?
no,
Both
no,
were
no,
the-
both were that amount.
Both were 3. Okay.
we had talked maybe in private meetings or open space about that it would be a good idea to survey out the exact property line
Yes,
behind the current
Yes.
houses if it's not currently clearly marked with bounds
Right,
or pipes.
right.
And it seems like it would be a good time to put that in a current budget with the acquisition. Is that something we either have like a miscellaneous line or some flexibility before you reduce it? Could
Yeah.
we
We
keep a
could.
couple grand in there for survey boundary marking?
I have no experience with that.
Will we have title insurance?
Yes, that's in the original budget.
I, I was just involved with a project that was surveyed at over or about 30 acres, 32 acres maybe. And a year later, no, 3 years later, before the project was, or the property was sold, the surveyor came to the owner, my client, and told them that 8 acres of the property at one end of it didn't belong to him, that another person was paying taxes on the same 8 acres for 150 years or
Oh,
some
jeez.
crazy
Oh,
number.
jeez.
And there was no way for my client to protect or recover that property without it costing more than the value of the property, of the 8 acres. So I think it's a good idea to get it surveyed.
I mean, yes, I wasn't even suggesting a full survey. I had suggested a full survey in the beginning, but I think that was not accepted. But clearly, just so we don't have any issues with the abutters, to know exactly
do the
where the
marking.
lines are, because people
Yeah.
have been saying how the cars are actually parked on the parcel, where there's like a
They're a
gravel
little bit
parking,
over, yeah,
nobody really
yeah.
knows.
Yeah.
And I think to avoid issues in the future, the town should know exactly where its property bounds are.
So would you call this, how would you phrase that in the budget?
Well, I would ask if they're coming out, and Bob probably knows way better than me, if they're gonna survey 2 sides of the property, it might be just fractionally more to do the other 2 and have a full survey, because that involves the title research at the same time.
What does that cost?
Under $10,000, possibly under 5.
Yeah, I think,
It's 11 acres?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I would guess $5,000 or $6,000. It's just insurance, really. I'm sorry, honey.
Yeah, and I would, if we're gonna do it, I would have all the sides marked, and
Yeah, I would too.
I would have them
So
raised or marked or something.
So if the surveyor is going out with the 1987 survey with the footage and the notation of where the drill holes are and where the markers are, that should be less expensive than a full survey, than from scratch, so to speak.
especially if they're easily found.
Yeah,
Well, they're gonna go to the registry of deeds and find a drawing, and they're gonna go out there with a robotic total station or better, and if those drill holes aren't there, they're gonna reproduce them like that.
yeah,
It's not like it used to be, Doug.
yeah.
But I thought the same thing until about a year ago.
Mhm.
So, this is it's a one-man job normally,
Mhm.
and, they can reproduce every drill hole, if there's a deed somewhere that gives,
Yeah. It does. We have a,
meets and bounds, then they
Yeah.
can reproduce it.
But I think given they're gonna stamp it, they're not gonna make an assumption that just because there's a drill hole that
Yeah.
that's the boundary.
No, exactly. We
They're
need
gonna
to make it
start
clear to
from
them.
Scratch from a
mhm,
known position, however they do it, and then they're gonna do the whole thing, because
Mhm.
that rock with a hole could have been moved.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
could have taken out a pipe and re-drilled it in
Yeah.
somewhere, so.
We should make it clear to them that that's what we're interested in, and that, someone should check the tax maps and make sure that other people aren't assuming they own it and paying taxes on
yeah.
it, because it happens. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Survey
can't tell you how many times surveys have wound up like this, similar things on my projects. It's crazy.
The assessor's map does show the footage and all the outline. We have that in our packet. So we have that, and we have the 87 survey, the whole thing. But if I add, when I add this to the budget, what should I put in there? You said 2,000?
No, well, I had no idea. I
Don't
think
we need an estimate first? I mean, this could end up being a significant
Yeah.
amount of money to
Okay.
do a survey like
Okay.
this. I don't
I
know,
mean, I agree
I don't
with-
know if it's necessary, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I mean, I agree
Yep.
with Bob, it's insurance. I mean, I would get it done if I was buying a property, and I think the town should also, just like we did the environmental.
I mean, if we
and-
were doing an easement, we would do it.
We would
as-
automatically do
We
it.
would have to do it as part of any sort of funding
Yes.
or anything, so
Yes.
we would have to do it then. And then it's gonna be used as as an easement, we would have to do a baseline survey
Yep,
too,
yep.
which would be making sure that there's no encroachments on the property lines. So while this isn't an easement, we really should treat it like an easement, and then we're gonna figure out how we have to monitor it going forward to make sure that the conservation purposes don't change, get encroached
Okay,
on.
okay.
But I mean, generally, property owners don't do surveys before, getting property, right? I mean, it's not something that people typically do. I'm not sure we necessarily need to. If there's another, and I don't know if there's another survey from the past that is sufficient.
Actually, it's a good question. So thinking this through right now, I recall that in the process here, because my client wanted to sell the property,
Mhm.
that the requirements of the insurance policy said that if he sold it, he was not allowed, he basically absolved them of any insurance on the property. It negated his policy. So that may be what happened. So the town is not gonna sell this property ostensibly anyway.
Yeah.
And that may mean that if we insure it, it's good enough.
I mean, we'll have title insurance.
That's
Yeah.
why I
Yeah.
asked about it.
Yeah, title insurance is in our original budget.
Maybe,
I mean,
So,
if we find that there's some, encroachments from some abutter at some point, I mean, then you would typically, do a survey if there's some sort of boundary dispute, but I'm not sure we have that presented, and I'm not, so I don't know why we'd want to spend that kind of money at this point.
Well, I would still agree with Rob in that there are two houses that are surrounded by this property that have already encroached on this property.
Have they? Do we know that?
there's a car that parks right on the
well, we
corner
won't know
there a
without a
little bit.
survey.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so, we won't know exactly where the corner bounds are unless the surveyor goes out there.
We had talked as the Open Space Committee about going out there with our equipment and trying to find the marks just to see what's there. And then we could, if we cannot, then bring someone in to make sure the markers are reinstalled.
I can tell you on this piece of property that I'm talking about, I went out and walked that property with the owners and picked up on the back border, the very border in dispute, the drill holes in the stone. There's a stone wall and there's drill holes at every turn of that wall. It made absolutely no difference. I mean, I pointed to them. I said, this is what your plan shows.
Yeah.
That hole right there.
Yeah.
This is what that plan shows. And those holes were drilled there decades ago, many decades ago. So it really, picking up those things on the survey, it might tell you what the boundaries are of that property, but if it goes into dispute, that is not going to help you, not at all,
Okay.
in my experience.
Yeah, but that's the big, if it goes into dispute. So
Yep.
just seems like, and that's why I was saying maybe we should at least get an estimate so we know
Okay.
what we're dealing with.
Okay.
Wouldn't want to spend a lot of money on something before we even know that there's an issue or a problem.
Okay, so I'm going to try to summarize this. There is concern that there might be encroachment. There is encroachment on one corner from the houses that are on South Road, that we should make sure that markers exist so that it's clear where our boundaries are, and that at this point, we're going to get an estimate to see what that might cost. But in the meantime, to move this forward, and I will put it in the budget, I will put it in the master budget for this property, and we'll see what unfolds after we get an estimate. But for the purposes tonight, I would like to ask for permission, a motion to use money from the Conservation Fund to proceed with any other costs that come up while this is in process. For instance, the title search, title insurance, the recording fees, any other fees that come up in the interim. I would like the authority to go ahead and start and to pay those expenses while we're working this out. Is there an issue with that? Are you comfortable with that?
It's just a law firm, all those things, just a law firm, right?
Yep.
And it has to be done.
Okay. So I'm going to, in summary,
Have we not authorized the?
no, we
use
only
before?
we only authorized the chair to expend up to $3,000 for the appraisal fee.
Gotcha.
You actually authorized me up to $5,000.
We had to up it. That was the seven.
We had to uprise it. So we need another motion so that I don't have to come back to you every month and say, well, I need another $2,000 or I need another $3,000.
I think you would have to get every bill approved to be paid, right? Taking any money out of the conservation fund, wouldn't you say, coming to approve this title insurance bill for $600 to be?
Well,
paid from the
that's a good
conservation
question.
fund?
That's a good question.
I think our minutes should show each expenditure.
If we approve it based on a previous amount, like a quote, she gets a quote and says, yeah. Do we have to approve it again when we get the bill, or does the first approval?
I think the issue is that we can't go out and spend the money and then find out that Concom didn't approve it, so.
Yeah.
We need to,
And with our meetings held only on a monthly basis, if an invoice comes in, then we wait and wait and wait for the next motion to approve things.
Why don't we approve the original budget in total? And then we don't have to modify draft budgets throughout the whole process every
Okay.
meeting. Let's just approve
23,100.
Yeah.
Okay,
to spend up to 23,100 from the conservation fund
Okay.
on expenses associated with the purchase of the Nooneymunger parcel.
okay, so
seconded,
the language, if I can read that to you. Motion to approve the use of the Conservation Fund up to $23,100 for the transaction cost for the purchase in fee simple of the 11.21 acres of land located on the northeast corner of South Road, currently owned by the Munger Nooney Revocable Living Trust.
Do we want to add approximately 11.2 acres? Is that
Approximately?
that was Bob?
Okay.
The 23,000, that was like a,
The original.
I know.
Also,
but then
approximately,
you had
it's gonna
found that
really
there were
help.
things that were
It's
less.
really gonna help
Yeah.
us here.
And I
But-
won't spend it if I don't, we won't spend it if we don't need it. And who knows if the survey makes up for another reduction in the budget.
Right, and we have a grant going in from.
Yeah, that's the next item, yes.
It's up to.
It's already seconded.
Any more discussion?
Wait, who seconded it?
Bob.
All in favor? Or any discussion? Any more discussion? All in favor? Okay. Thank you. So I'm going to go back to another item I had on here. The Great Bay Resources Stewardship Program, Resource Protection Partnership, has different grants that you can apply for. One is for reimbursement for transaction costs. So Jeff, Anna, and I have been reviewing that in the last 2 weeks. We are applying for the Grant 2 program, which is for the reimbursement of transaction costs. Anna's putting together the budget just before I got here. It's due Friday. It's due Friday. So I just received, before I came to the meeting tonight, the official narrative, budget, et cetera, I have not read that, but we're going to apply for approximately $15,000, $16,000 to reimburse us for expenses. So I haven't read it, I can't verify that that's exactly, but I wanted to let you know that we're working on that. Hopefully that will put money back into the conservation fund. And also, Paul has generously offered to go to the select board to ask that the excess from the Fuller bond, it's about $8,000, be applied to this project. So we have a couple of other things in the works that will protect or reimburse the conservation fund for expenses for this.
Nice
So
job.
we're trying to get as many resources together as possible to get this accomplished.
I think we won this grant on the Fuller property.
I don't remember that.
We have on lots of other properties. Several.
Yeah.
You often get half the appraisal cost paid for.
Right.
Yeah.
There was half
Yeah.
on Fuller.
Yeah. So we've done some drafts of a budget. Jeff can testify to all of that. And he's the electronic person who's going to put this package all together to be submitted electronically, which
He
is
looks
not
real to
my,
me. I don't know.
my wheelhouse or Anna's equipment at home. So Jeff is an important part of this process right now. So,
Yeah, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
yes, he's doing all the maps and putting everything together that's required. So much appreciated for this. Yes. Okay. We've talked about the public hearing, we've talked about possible grant, we've talked about the motion. Okay, I think that is everything on Munger Nooney unless there are other questions or other issues. I mean, this is Munger Nooney right here in my dining room. We're not eating in the dining room anymore. Yes, so I appreciate all the help that people are giving to
And the
this.
expected closing be when the bond is issued in like 6
Yes.
months or something, right?
Yes, if you look on that schedule that was provided,
In August.
yeah, applications are due the 25th. It goes back and forth with questions, more information required. They send the preliminary opinions. They go to the rating agencies in June. Deadline for meeting the requirements of participants' governing board for the certificate of vote. Loan agreements are returned. This is very complex, but it says, okay. Well, you can read it. You've got it.
August 6th to 7th.
August 6th to 7th.
Proceeds. That's what we care
Proceeds.
about.
Okay.
Proceeds. So some closing date thereafter.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you said
Yeah.
we can have our public hearing after the 25th.
Referred before.
Preferred before,
So
because
we should-
Fuller happened in June, and that was after,
So we should
the
aim for the
application.
23rd. Yeah.
If we can make it, yes, yes, if that works, yes. Okay, so back to this, okay. That goes here. Just a quick note on, if I can move to the next item, Pickpocket Dam. We all know, and we've talked about the town of Exeter approving the expenditures. Eric Terror stopped by the other day to talk to me, and he said that he's submitting a request for them to review the status classification of the dam, because if it's required for a 1,000-year flood, that means that everyone in this area is going to be underwater, not just the dam. So he's just asking that question. That's all I know right now.
I wish I had as much time as him.
I know, I know.
You don't? That's
So,
shocking.
and I still have to contact Andrew Fisk I'm sure he knows that the bond, that the town approved that, but I want to get him involved in any expertise but it's still early in the process. Recreation update, I'm turning it over to Heather. We talked about the plan that Recreation has for drainage, irrigation, and fertilization. And Heather made the suggestion last time to do a site walk.
Do a site walk. So we met today on site with Andy from the rec department and who was that from Hillside?
Hillside. Gary Gray, Gary Cowan, who's the son of Ken Cowan, who owned property on, his widow still lives on North Road, and they owned what's GMI International, which used to be the horse riding rink.
Hmm.
So yes, so Hillside Landscaping.
So we walked the property. He explained what he wanted to do for drainage. Basically, the field as graded kind of drains in two directions as he presented in the presentation. This is the tree side of the field. Currently is supposed to be pitched just so it overland flows kind of towards off the fields and towards the woods. It's just settled unevenly on that side is really the problem. So really that side they just want to regrade and smooth out so it has the right pitch and just drains towards the tree line. On the side towards the parking lot, they want to it kind of collects in the trough that's at the bottom of the hill between the two sets of playing fields. So there they want to kind of grade it so that it actually drains through that low area and then install a catch basin right before the parking lot. It's kind of where the largest puddle is currently forming. And then it would be through a discharge pipe under the parking lot and to the tree line on that side. Where that wants to go, it's not wet right there. It's dry currently. And then there's a hummock, a hill between that discharge location and the wet area that's further behind it so that it won't be discharging directly to a wetland or a wet area. That's, I don't know, my understanding of what he talked about on the drainage. So that makes me less concerned. I don't think we're going to be reaching the vernal pools that are further back or discharging directly into the nearby wet areas. He did review the fertilization process. That was one of the other questions we had. Currently, they fertilize about 4 times a year, he said. And I don't, and you also were told, Becky, that anybody using fertilizer has to meet a state requirement, so there's application kind of requirements, so they should be, whatever company they're using should be meeting those, so there's kind of rules and regulations to follow to apply to fertilizers. And I think most of the field is going to drain via overland flow anyways, and we're not changing that. We're just really changing one section of it. So I don't think we're concentrating like all the fertilizer runoff off the entire field to one area. So I guess I'm okay-ish with that. But any questions?
It was good to do the site walk. It
Yeah.
really was helpful to be physically on site and meet with Gary. And he said he had contacted the person who originally graded the
Yeah,
fields,
his neighbor was the one who actually
built the
constructed
fields, yeah. And he saw the plans, and he felt they were well done.
So what's gonna happen at the end of that discharge pipe? Because if you're saying there's a big puddle there now, are they gonna put some sort of disbursement thing or a,
No,
you know,
it's
catch,
just,
whatever they call those, holding place for water so things can settle out, or a rain garden, or
yeah, I guess,
vegetation.
that is one area where we, like, right now, he was just talking about, it would just daylight off the side of the parking lot. So we could encourage something at that discharge location that would,
otherwise it's just gonna be a stream of water coming.
yeah,
down
it would
there,
just,
I
it would
assume.
Yeah.
pool, we talked about that, yeah, it would pool, on the side there. It's kind of naturally currently a low area, so I do expect that it would become pooled
There
there.
instead.
Yeah.
And that's by the road that's going to the substation, like it's
Near,
exiting
yep, right
around
near
Near
there.
that
it,
corner.
So
near
the
it.
wetlands and like an intermediate stream passes like between the parking lot and the substation.
Yeah, it's further back.
Further
And
back.
That's
they-
further back.
Yeah.
than Where they're talking.
Yeah.
And there's this weird little natural hummock
Hummock, yeah.
there,
Okay.
so like,
Yeah.
it is kind of on small scale isolated, from the wetland.
I would defer to Heather, except that I would just want assurance that there's no surface flow making it into any tributary to Great Bay. Because nitrogen impairment is a big problem there. And if it's gonna go into the ground, the nitrogen will dissipate a lot better than
Yeah.
if it stays on the surface. So what you're saying is it's gonna be impounded, as far as we know, in a low area.
They're going to,
I'm fine with that.
the language, we would then dig a trench approximately 150 feet across the parking lot and install piping from the drain box to the woods.
Piping from the.
Additional grinding and grading may be needed beyond the drain box.
Yeah,
Is that, we're talking about the same side of the field?
yeah, the
To
parking
the,
lot side.
Yeah.
to the woods.
So, yeah, just
Okay.
currently, it,
The woods is even better. I mean,
Yeah.
nitrogen dissipation in the woods
Yeah.
is ideal for New England, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay?
so you're good with that?
I am, yeah. And currently the water, when it gets high enough in the field, it drains across the driveway to this location.
Anyway.
So it's where the water's going. It
Yeah.
just, right now it collects in all the low spots there and just sits there for too long. So the hope is to grade it so it just drains off the field more timely.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. The timing on this is, sports are already going to start within the next couple of weeks. If they find an interval this summer when they're between different activities, they might do some of this work. Otherwise, it would be in the fall at the end of the season. Is that what he said?
I would imagine, yeah, it'd have to be after.
Yeah, and they still have to go to the select board. He's hoping to use impact fees for this. And we had the recreation property management plan, and Andy has that as well. Okay, anything else on that? No, recreation. Okay, we're gonna move on to community events.
See this?
Do we need or want to make
Oh.
any sort of formal
Statement? Yeah.
statement?
How would you phrase that, Heather, since you,
I would say no exceptions taken, at most.
okay,
Yeah.
I prefer nothing at all.
yeah,
I prefer a nod or a wink, actually, but.
taken, okay. Are you comfortable with that, Heather? Jeff?
Yeah, he did not go into great detail on that, but just indicated it would, he thought the elevations were fine, it would just daylight right there without any additional real digging or any, I mean, obviously digging because you're putting in a pipe, but
Yeah.
other elevation changing, so I don't,
He did say in here, once we do the seeding, they want to fertilize and seed the area, they would install an erosion blanket that will hold the seed in place, so they are going to be doing some work on the perimeter.
Oh, that would be the
The,
field,
that's the
probably,
field,
not
yeah.
the.
yeah. They've talked about doing a little, enlarging the parking area a little bit. He had said into the,
No, that was
that's something else?
an idea that didn't happen.
Okay.
That wasn't, I don't think, a plan at this point.
So do you want to stay with no exceptions taken?
Sure.
Any other questions on that?
I think if they find that it needs some riprap, the highway department could probably
Yeah.
dump some.
I agree with that.
Okay,
It may well need some, but we can have, Wayne and his guys can go in and put some as needed. It,
Okay.
normally it'd be a maintenance concern, but it doesn't seem like a big thing. So it's fairly cost effective to go in after if it's needed.
okay. Okay, moving on to, thank you, Heather, very much. And Rob, talked to both of you, and I'm glad Heather was able to be there and ask the questions. So roadside cleanup next.
It was in the newsletter. It's on Facebook. There's an event for it. We're on schedule for 26th.
Are you going to repost it on
Yes,
Facebook?
yes.
Yeah, okay, that would be great. We have gloves,
We have gloves. We have trash bags.
yeah,
we have
and
donuts.
they'll be left here in Andy's office.
Okay.
A big enough supply, we need to pick it up.
I have plenty of bags.
Oh, you do?
Remember,
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Got a little stash.
and I also have a future source that we don't have to go through the whole official request channel, but,
Turn your mic off.
no, it's all right. I can get them,
You'll have the bags.
yes, bags.
Okay, Heather, okay.
I can get them officially and unofficially.
Do we need the select board to approve the acceptance of bags?
No, we do not. Not the select board.
Patrick, remind us of the time.
The donuts will arrive, yes.
Just checking out again what I posted.
Might
I'm
do
pretty
other
sure it's
select boards,
8
but not this one.
You're the new chair, I hear.
This is true.
Of the select board?
Yeah,
Oh, congratulations.
8 o'clock.
We have
8
a,
o'clock, 8 till noon.
Yep.
We'll have,
Wait till the donuts run out.
yeah, yes, we'll have donuts and 2 boxes of coffee, napkins,
Yep.
cups, everything else. If it rains, it was raining last year a
Kinda
little bit,
last
but
year.
we went ahead.
Yeah.
So we'll do that. Just to let you know, the gardeners are doing their garden cleanup the same day. So I'm going to invite them to stop by for coffee and donuts. So I think that would be very nice to bring them together. So we'll do that. I'll extend an invitation through Heather Arkell and through Alicia Newbert, who are now the ones who are organizing this.
the state was out and did Route, Middle Road. What?
It was the
That-
Boy Scouts.
On
That was the
Sunday.
Boy
The
Scouts.
Boy Scout troop.
Okay, well, that's
Yeah.
great.
With-
I saw
Not-
our DPW out there putting signs up and
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
at the,
so
I think the state
awesome.
request to have the kids up
Awesome.
there. Yep.
Yeah,
So we should, I guess, account for that with whatever our plan is.
yeah.
There were bags everywhere out there, so I know they picked up a lot of stuff.
I think it was from Block Drive to Pickpocket was the area that we're going to cover, and they're going to do it 3 times this year, I think is what I heard.
Yeah, they adopted that section.
Nice.
Yeah, which is very nice.
There is a couple of different towns folks that go out and do it on their own volition. I don't know if there's some way we could recognize them as a commission. Like I know there's a couple. I've talked to them a couple times who do Pine Road every Sunday.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
So
I,
someone should just stop and ask them about themselves and,
Yeah, get their.
yeah, we should
Yeah.
acknowledge it.
yeah.
Sure, for
And
sure.
the Boy Scout troop and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff is all
Yep.
good work.
I think it's all good work.
You know, that means you have to do it because it
Yeah.
was your
Yes,
idea.
you have to do it. Heather, I'm sorry, Emma.
It's been a few years since I've done this. Can you just give me a quick reminder on like how the morning goes?
Yeah. So it's the same as we did it last year. It's going to be where the commission's going to show up at the rec center. We're going to be in the pavilion. We'll have all the kit, gloves, bags, how many you want. And it's kind of like a chit chat, and then take your stuff, and then we send you on a way. If you need a location, we can help point you to a intersection or something. But the recommendation is you do your chunk of the road and pick up trash, and then either bring it to the curb. Is generally with your trash. We did
Yeah.
inform.
You
Yeah,
bring it to
we
your curb,
did,
yeah.
we did inform the trash folks last time that there might be extra.
I did, yes.
I don't know if we
We
want.
called Casella and she said she didn't think it was gonna be a problem,
Yeah.
but we need to do that again this year, in case.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yes.
No coming back together.
No, it's, you show up, you get your stuff, and then,
Yeah, and someone will be at the pavilion until noon to hand out, continue to answer questions or whatever, yes, hand out gloves, all of that. And there were warnings in the newsletter about
needles and.
needles and things to be
stuff.
very careful when you're picking up trash, and if you see anything that you should report, please contact the police. So yes, so read the newsletter article, that was very,
Are we still gonna
Complete.
have the informal survey of what the most popular kind of beer can there?
we did have an
people are
informal
drinking?
survey, yeah, I think Bud Light,
Coors Light.
Coors Light, and always in the same place, basically, yes, yes. So we'll do another survey this year. Okay, Patrick, thank you. Anything on Fish and Game?
I'm in contact with the library on it day.
Okay.
It's been a very long email chain back and
Okay.
forth.
Okay, that's fine, just keep us posted. Okay, next, Open Space Committee met last Wednesday, and a couple of topics came up. Rob, you had a suggestion for ways we could keep interested landowners informed and give them an opportunity to experience that. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I would love to. Yeah, so the goal is, we have people that we've been outreaching to, and the idea is to try and have something a few times a year to keep in touch with them or see if the moment is right. So one thing we thought we could arrange is to have a walk with a landowner that's put an easement on that property. The different names came up. One was Edie Shipley. I have been in touch with her. She's given me at least days of the week that would work. We thought at the open space that maybe after work one day might be a little better than a weekend at like a 5:30 to 6:30 for an hour now that it's light out. We thought maybe late May or early June. And so I don't know how you want to go about picking a date. If I should just pick a date
What works
with
for her, I think, yeah, what
Okay.
works for her.
and I'll check with you.
Yep.
And then we were gonna invite some landowners directly, and then I don't know what the final decision was, to either open it up to the whole public or just to keep it as a kind of targeted group so that it would be a little more intimate to be able
Yeah,
to
yeah.
share. So,
Would you be interested in using the trails the Shipleys have? They have trails in the back chunk. There's two sections: the farmland easement and this wooded
well, I
easement.
was gonna leave it up to Edie and Chris to.
Oh, we
host.
use the trails with the cows and the dogs, so I could have it cleaned. I guess is my point. Like leaf blown for your convenience, Rob. If you give me a date, I'll have it done before. It's my point.
You're gonna leaf blow
Yeah.
trails on conservation eased property.
On a private property?
Wow.
Well, we're neighbors to the Shipleys.
Okay,
This is something we do regularly.
okay. Well, I'm happy to have Edie reach out to you if she would like
Okay,
assistance
okay.
with her property. I didn't think of anything like that, I was just basically gonna leave it up to them and show up, and then
Fair enough.
they would be able to explain.
You're
the
also
road.
next to the Fullers if you want to do.
That's so new, yeah.
We were thinking like an hour, like
Yeah.
a small walk, not like a big excursion, just to try and connect potential landowners with the easements. I mean, it wasn't like an outreach event to the whole community
Yeah.
to go walk their trails and things. That's not at least how I approached it. But I'm sure we could ask them for another time if you're thinking about a bigger hike or something.
It's not much of a hike. I just throwing it out there. Just to
Could
be-
roll out red carpet too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
Well, I hope it works out for Edie, so we can talk a little bit more about whether we just invite potential landowners or do we open it to the public. I think it's what Edie's comfortable with too, what she wants on her property.
We also have to worry about a quorum forming, I think, so, I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah, for a public event?
I don't know, if a handful of us showed up at Lindy's one day, would that be considered a meeting, a public meeting? I mean,
Yeah,
Are we just
potentially
running
could-
into each other, or are we?
potentially could be.
Yeah, so that means it would need to be advertised as a Concom meeting, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's a specific like site walk,
It's not a sidewalk, it's
It's a-
just,
A walk in the woods.
a walk in the woods.
Walk
yeah, I
in
mean,
the
there wouldn't
woods.
be an agenda or
Yeah.
any business discussed, it would,
A lot of groups hold bird watching, trail walking, conservation commissions, and I
point
don't
out
know
what
that there's
the
ever a
right
question
answer
about
is.
that. But
I mean, if it was a specific site walk, then I would say yes, but if it's just, I suppose, and maybe it's just a
Social.
matter of words.
We're not taking minutes for
Yeah.
the cleanup day, right?
No.
And we're gonna have a quorum.
we're
We
going
had
to
a quorum
us
last
there.
year.
Right, so as long as you're not discussing business, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not going to prison over this, so I'm just saying.
Thank you very much, Rob, for contacting Edie, and let's see what happens with her preference, how she wants it designed.
Okay.
Okay, and the date. One other thing, Open Space is working on is a criteria form to use for any initial contact or interest expressed by a landowner. If we do a site walk, so this would be a way to record features, our feelings, what we discover on that walk. So Heather and Jeff are working on that, something that we could use so as the beginning of the file for any parcel. So it documents information, so we have questions answered, so this is also being worked on in open space. Any questions, happy to answer, it's just starting, so. There'll be an article in the May Brentwood newsletter about bird migration. So Robin's working on that, Open Space Committee, Robin Wrighton. So that's my other announcement. Planning Board, there's a public event you have in your packet, the flyer for the housing plan. Help plan the future of housing in Brentwood. The date is May 15, 5 to 7 at the rec center. This is your chance. If you have any questions or ideas or concerns about how housing moving forward should be built or increased in Brentwood, participate. Your voice matters. So I'm handing these out so that you have thoughts on it, please, because this will result in planning board suggestions for ways to increase housing stock in Brentwood. So
Yeah, or
please,
more than suggestions,
Yes.
perhaps even change in
Yes.
the ordinances that would end up going to, a town vote. So this would be the start of that process.
so if you're interested in input, adding your input, please plan to attend. I don't know if it's going to be broadcast, but I don't think they have that equipment over at the rec center to broadcast, so you have to be there, as far as I know. Planning Board. Emma, any thoughts on the youth and children's education?
Yes. So Deb, Briscoe, and I have been chatting to move forward with this trail challenge idea. And we've identified several trails that would be good for the challenge. One is off of Wendell Drive. It's sort of the back end of Split Rock. There's a loop that, or an out and back, what we think, that ends up at Giant Rock by the river.
Yeah.
Then we're looking at the other
it's
end.
Big Rock, by the way,
What's it called?
Big Rock.
Big Rock. Okay, great. That's literally what I wrote on my notes. Big Rock. And then on the South Road side of Split Rock, I haven't walked that one yet to come up with like a destination trail. You want me to
Yeah, I just realized that, yeah, sorry.
And then the north loop of the rec center, which is like the back of the fields, there's a loop. And then there's a loop behind Swayze School. And then possibly is the Fish and Game property on Deer Hill, but that depends if we're gonna try to put anything out on the trail or not, because we, I guess, can't put something out there, she said, or we have to do something significant if we want to. So those are sort of like the 4 or 5 trails we've identified right now. I'm working on walking them with my children to sort of get a guideline of like how
Nice.
much we'll tolerate, how
Yeah.
interesting they are for
Yeah.
kids.
Nice idea.
And then as in terms of like what we're looking for out there, there are a couple geocaches right now. There's one on the Wendell Trail and there's one behind the rec center. So that's one option. We could put more geocaches out on those trails. Or other towns put something you make a rubbing on. So in Exeter, they have like I don't know how they do it, but there's a marker that you actually make a rubbing on the paper that is your
Okay.
trail
Oh,
passport.
so it's like an image.
Yes.
Okay.
And Kingston does the same thing. They have little animals that you trail rub onto the passport.
Isn't that cute?
So that's an idea. I don't know exactly how we would do that, but I guess one question is, if we were to put something out on the trails, how do we do that? Who do we need to ask, or?
If they're recreation trails, would it be the rec department too? Has Andy been part of this conversation? or-
Not yet.
Okay, well then, a meeting with Andy maybe, just say, this is where we are. What do you need from us?
For that
Yeah.
trail. But what
Yeah.
about like the Wendell and Split Rock? Are those privately owned?
This question only comes up when it involves the Trails Committee and money.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why these things come up. So is there money needed to do this?
Well,
or-
if we were gonna put something out there, then yeah, we would have to pay to get the item that we're putting out there.
So that's
And
what
then
we're
we
being
would
at.
need to have permission to put it out there.
Yeah.
I also think there's ways to get around this, that we don't need to put anything out there. One idea was that you come up with like some location, some natural object that you're looking for, and you could say, take your picture
Yeah.
with
Yes.
that in
That's a
that
great
place.
idea.
That's great.
And then you're submitting electronically all your pictures,
Yeah.
or encouraging them to post on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
I did this hike
Yeah.
on this
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
And then we can just skip that whole
Yeah,
The
thing.
yeah.
the Wendell loop I've done with the Boy Scouts when I was a Boy Scout, and there's geocaches out there. That doesn't answer any of your questions, but
I know,
from
there is
what-
one out there.
That's all. I don't remember we needed permission. We just kind of
Right.
Is it on the road or
It's
is it
off the
on-
road. You just
It's-
kind of parked on the side of the road, and we just walked into the woods from there.
I think the geocache is
nice.
around the bridges area,
Yeah.
just in the forest. We
Yeah,
didn't
it-
look for it the day we went out, but it does say Boy Scouts.
There's
on it.
No, it's Robinson's.
Yeah, so I think if
There's
you were gonna
bridges,
put it,
though.
there are
We actually
geocaches
did
all over that
Yeah.
people put, but
Yeah.
since
It's-
we're
it's
an
gonna be
organized
them and
group, I don't
Agnes.
think we should be like
Yeah.
putting things out in the
Right,
forest without
right, permission.
approval.
It's
Yes.
on
Yeah.
I like the idea of the photographs and then posting those.
That
and-
seems the simplest way,
Yeah.
and it's also very engaging for
Yeah.
people these days to be seeing other people
Yeah, doing
on the
something.
internet
But is
doing
that fun for the
interesting things.
kids, like to
Or-
take a picture versus going out there and rubbing something seems funner for me.
Or
fun.
or a
More
place
fun.
in the passport to draw a picture.
Yeah,
Something
that's a
like
good
that.
idea.
Yeah.
Or like for 4-H, we do all these
That's a really
seasonal
good idea.
challenges, and you take a picture and then you have to print it and paste it into your book.
Oh.
So that could be like,
Yeah, they could either
we don't
draw
like
or
we don't like that as parents, but some
Yeah.
people do like printing their photos and pasting them in the book, I guess. So that could be a way that the kids are feeling engaged by that. Anyways, maybe we keep thinking about that.
So just to answer your question, I mean, the Split Rock property is all owned by the town. It's
Okay.
70+ acres on both sides.
Oh,
It's
okay.
owned by the town.
Swayze Forest is too right behind the school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The school.
Is
So
town-owned.
if we wanted to put something out there, it seems like it wouldn't be that difficult to make that happen.
Yeah.
There's a huge slug of land behind the church as well, Pilgrim Church.
Okay.
That's, I think conservation land, if I'm not mistaken.
Privately owned by the church with an easement, yes.
We'll probably get permission from the church to
Yeah.
go
Rather-
back there.
Yeah.
And,
Wet.
is it wet?
It gets
back
pretty wet.
there, Behind the.
Yeah, because Dudley Brook
memorial
is back there,
there.
yeah.
And a place to grow out on 125.
Yeah.
I think there's conservation land behind their place.
Okay, yes, there
Oh.
is a
And
trail.
she's-
There's a Celt Trail on 125.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where is that?
That's where.
it goes mostly into
It
Fremont.
gives a
There's
sign.
a
I've
sign
walked
on
that,
125.
yeah.
Looks like a driveway. It's a
Okay.
shared
Yeah.
It's a
access
yeah.
with the house.
Okay.
And you
That
can-
that one's got like a whole map and kiosk and stuff, so
Right.
you could
Yeah.
I'll
definitely
look that
put
one up.
something.
Yeah,
And-
Deb mentioned that.
Yeah.
You
also.
can get out to the rec center trails too.
Correct.
Yes.
They connect
Okay.
behind a whole bunch of private
Yeah.
property.
Okay, we'll get over there and walk that one.
Okay.
What is that?
And then there's the question of what's the prize when somebody completes the challenge? We talked about a sticker, doing like an art challenge. I sort of talked to some local kids about that, and nobody really jumped at that opportunity. So,
Maybe it should be Conservation Commission member drawings.
Anybody?
I can. I'll draw a stick figure moose if that's if that's.
Well, what would be good? I mean, what would your kids like? I mean, I think we have. I
So
think we
it's-
agreed we have some money for it.
Yeah, so a sticker, like a 2-inch circle sticker, we would pay like $100 for 300 stickers. If we wanted to do a patch, that's like a fabric embroidered patch, that's like $300 for 300 patches, so a little more expensive. Kingston does a voucher for a Memories ice cream when you complete
Oh.
the challenge.
Is there an age limit on this?
I like
They
that
do
idea.
specifically say kids on their challenge. I don't think we should put an age limit on ours because at the Brentwood gathering, there were a lot of people
Yeah.
who are not children who
Yeah.
seemed excited about this idea. So,
Yeah.
anyways, I thought we could think about if there's like a local prize that would be exciting, like, I don't know, a free donut from Apple Annie, if somebody thought that
Does
was
anyone
a
know
good
the owners?
idea.
Is it?
Something we could make happen. Or like
saw
a
that
tiny
coming a
jar
mile
of
away.
maple syrup,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like the tiniest.
You can do like a little sample.
Yeah, or like a head of lettuce from Stout Oak. I don't know. Not exciting for kids, I guess, but
Make it
there we go. I'm putting that on my list.
Yeah.
But walking group is a great idea. Deb and I talked about that once we figure out the walks, that each year we could plan to do a group hike, so we're hitting each of those
Yeah.
hikes in one year.
Yeah.
And inviting people to come walk with us. And then my last point is that in Kingston, they run this through the library. So once you complete your challenge, you go to the kids' community room, and that's where you hand in your passport, I
Yeah.
guess they're calling it. So that's an idea if we do something not electronic
Yeah.
that maybe Kiki would be willing to
Yeah.
receive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Concom should run it, and I nominate Patrick to lead it.
I don't want to. I feel like there's so much.
I nominate Michelle.
She's
Oh, that's
got
a
a
good idea.
load of things, yeah.
And then Becky, you had sent me an email about a pollinator event in Atkinson.
Yeah.
Where they set up a table at Freshwater Farms, which I think is a shop, not a
Yeah.
actual farm.
Yeah.
I don't really know. But the Concom sets up a table and they hand out free native wildflower seeds
Seeds, yeah.
and have, info pamphlets and kids craft.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's something you want me to pursue. I wondered about Stout Oak Farm plant sale is coming
Yeah.
up in the end of May. That
Yeah.
I don't know if they would be willing to let us set up one morning and do a craft and hand out free seeds, but I'm happy to ask them about that. Or Wellington.
Gardens, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
The pollinator pathways,
Mhm.
Nathan and is that Kingston, East Kingston, wherever, they do that a lot.
Yes. Okay.
Because I've gotten different seeds from them.
A
They
lot
have
of seeds.
events and they set stuff up at the libraries.
Mm.
So maybe it's
Is there a source for the seed? Like,
I think they collect them from individuals.
There are some packets that look like commercial packets. They have it divided by different vegetables and flowers, and some look like hand packaged. People have submitted seeds that they've saved, so it's a mix.
So maybe we just reach
Cool.
out to Evie and say
Yeah.
we'd love to partner to
Yep.
host
Yep.
Right.
pollinator
Yep.
pathways
Okay.
and not have to create it ourselves.
Yep.
What's the name? Evie?
Effie Nathan.
It's pollinator pathways,
Okay.
pollinator pathways or something like
I'll
that.
look it up. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Good
So I
ideas.
could ask, I'll check in with Stout Oak and
Yeah.
Wellington to see
Okay.
if anyone's willing to have us.
Very nice.
Were we going with the sticker? Was that? Did we determine
Oh, we
that?
didn't make a decision on that.
I say Emma makes a decision.
I like the ice cream.
How about a slice of pizza?
What would motivate you to walk?
I like
Like
the idea of letting Emma come up with.
are kids still putting like the stickers on water bottles or
Kids
things?
are putting so many stickers
Yeah.
on
I feel like
everything.
stickers are a big thing with kids right now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Kind of always have been, but
Yeah.
especially right now. So it's a
Especially if
easy-
it's something small that's like,
Could you do like the split rock in the sticker?
ooh, That's a cool idea.
I'm not gonna go any further and volunteer anything beyond that. But maybe yeah.
Okay.
If
There's
especially if
some
that's, like,
local artists who are very into
trail.
conservation. Maybe I'll
Yeah.
tap them and see if anyone wants to
I
design
would,
something.
I'd be willing to give Emma an allowance of, say, $500 to,
Buy
if
stickers.
if others, and et cetera.
Bribe
Um,
Catherine.
If others are willing to, I have no problem at all.
It'd be under our events budget, and this is something that we want to do as a Conservation Commission, to involve kids and educate kids, so it's an educational outreach.
In coordination with the Trails Commission as well. The
Yeah.
Trails Commission.
Yeah, because the Trails Commission doesn't have a budget.
I'll second Bob's motion.
Okay, any discussion?
Oh, it's a motion now.
Yes, a motion to contribute $500 towards this effort. Is there a second?
Up to 500.
Up to
I'll
500?
make a motion then.
No, it's
Bob
all
made
right.
it.
It's all right. I'm good.
So you are the motion, you
You're
are
the
the second, right?
Yeah, I'm fine,
Okay.
I'm fine
All
either
in
way.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any negatives? Okay, great. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Emma.
Emma, if you, like, think that we want to go the physical route on the trails, Scout project, Eagle Scout project might be a possibility for raising the money for
Yeah.
them and to install them. And
Yeah.
you could probably even get them to help you with a paperwork portion of your, we just have to find a scout, but, there's options. I might be.
Thank you again, Emma.
One
Thank you
treat
very
and never
much.
get out.
Yep. You mentioned that some people at the gatherings were very interested in this idea. I want to compliment publicly the people who organized the gatherings. A lot of work went into that to set up, get the equipment, make the calls, publicize it, and encourage people to attend. And I think the turnout was very good. So it was nice to see people moving from table to table. So a public thank you. I think it was Laura Hajar, it was Michelle Sadut's idea, and Robin Wrighton was involved with all the production as well. So kudos to them. It was a good idea. So very nice. So publicly acknowledged.
And kudos for Becky for bringing all of our paperwork to display.
It was interesting. Yes, it was. I had a good time. Okay, next, committee assignments. That's all in your packet. Last month, I announced that there is a process where when openings occur on a commission or a committee, the process is to publicize that in advance. I think it's 90 days in advance, to submit a description to the town administrator, who'll share it, and the select board will approve. Then it will be posted, and applicants have 30 days to fill out the application by the deadline or the time frame that's on that application. I submitted the description I shared with you last week. There were no changes that anyone came to me with. There will be 3 openings for 3 members whose terms expire in '25. 1 alternate term ends in '95. All terms are 3 years, so whether you apply for a member or an alternate. The terms, once they're approved, would run through 2028, because we already have 27 alternate. I can read you the numbers. Stevens, Lipinski, and Dunham's terms end in '25. McNaughton, 26. Wolfchuck and Sadut in '27. Those are the members. And then we have a select board member who's assigned to us. Alternates are Cowie, 25. Marcoux and LaRoche, 26. Layham, Dudley Tapman, 27. So those are the terms that are posted on the town website. So we'll have 3 member openings and 1 alternate opening. Often alternates move up into a member role. The applications will be reviewed and submitted to the select board. And there will be a meeting where conservation people and the select board are together and make those decisions or recommendations, I believe. We need to even out the terms, because right now we have 3 for 25 members and only 1 for 26. So I'm going to suggest that my term move to 26, so that we have 2, 2, and 2 for each year expiring. So that will even it out. I think the timing got screwed up when we made a lot of changes. So there'll be a 1-year term and 2 3-year terms of members to apply for. So it was submitted to Andrea last week on the 1st. I haven't heard back. It's not posted yet, so I don't know when that posting will occur, when the select board will work with all the committees on that. So she's been informed, and the select board, I assume, will be. I think I carbon copied you on that.
Didn't see it.
Yeah. So that's the status of this. So read the description when it's posted. If you want a description now, I'll send it to you just to review that. But I think I gave it out last meeting, so.
It's like a June date, I know that. we'd be
Yeah,
looking at
it is, yeah.
Are you switching the select board assignments, or will you be fortunate enough to have you continue with us?
He spoke up for conservation.
Really?
Yes,
Meaning you're gonna stay with us.
yes.
If you'll have me.
I would love to have you.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, they gave out the assignments. The different committees were spoken for by different, I don't have that list in front of me.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Because we have the only one.
Yep. Yep. So you are informed, and Andrea and the select board are informed with the upcoming vacancies. So if you need a copy, let me know. I'll email you that copy. So that, yes. New business, if there's anything else in old business that I've forgotten? Nope. New business, you have a flyer, or I have flyers for the Alewife Festival in Exeter. I posted one on the bulletin board out there. The date is, what? The 10th?
Of May.
Of May, yep. They do the count, et cetera, and there are foods there and activities. So look on your calendar. Next meetings, we have open space on May 7, and conservation is May 14. I have extra copies if anyone wants a copy.
Want to see that for your notes?
Copies? If anyone else wants one, I have some here, or I did. Oh, okay. Conservation. The ARM project that was presented at our last meeting, Heather and Rob and I met to talk about that, and we're trying to come up with a possible project list. So that should an opportunity be there on our shovel-ready projects, and the grant cycle opens, we can apply for some money from the ARM fund. So any ideas you have for projects in town or things that are going on in town where we might be able to apply, let us know. We'll come back with a draft. This is our first conversation, so there's a lot to be discussed. We don't think we'll have anything ready for this cycle, which is in May, so probably for next year. But we know that a couple of big projects are coming online next year. Prescott over on Route 27 possibly will be contributing to the mitigation fund. So yes, there may be a possibility for us. Subscribe to the e-news, NHACC. You have, I don't know if you have this in your packet, I think you do. We submitted to NHACC the story about the Fuller conservation easement, and they published it in their e-news, which was very nice, a little more publicity about that. It's a wonderful monthly e-newsletter, good information, other opportunities for education. So I would like to encourage you to do that. One thing that we didn't do is to do the non-public minutes. We usually do this at the end of the meeting, so I have non-public meetings. We would have to go into non-public session. They're very short. So do we have a motion?
To review
On-
the minutes, we don't need to go into.
Only if we
Okay.
have discussion. on
Okay,
them.
okay, so let me hand those out, some in this direction and some in this direction. If there's not enough, let me know. These are from, so if there are any, we'll go into non-public if you have any.
These are the same, right? You just,
Yeah,
I
I just
have
gave
enough.
you more.
Nope.
Yeah, these are still draft. Jeff and Emma, you sat in on this last time, yes, so.
point of order.
Yes.
Are we in, we're
No,
not?
we're not in non-public.
If someone doesn't participate in the vote, should they be noted by name?
I don't know.
Are you talking about possible abstentions?
Yeah.
Hypothetical?
Yeah.
I would assume. I would assume it would be listed number of votes yes, number of votes no, and then 2 abstentions.
And that's how it is listed here, but there's no one named for the abstentions.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't either, that's why I asked. What does the select board do?
Yeah, what do you do if there's an abstention?
Is it specifically named who's in the, I'm not sure, to be honest with you, I'd have to look. I think we specifically do name, is my memory.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I suggest then in the future,
Yeah,
we do that?
okay,
Awesome.
I'm pretty sure we do.
okay. Name abstentions, okay.
If there's a hypothetical number that has been repeated in this meeting that is not the same number as listed here, would that be something we should amend? Well, it starts with a 9, that otherwise is mentioned as a 7.
So you're saying correct the number?
I'm asking.
The numbers seem accurate.
The number.
They're consistent.
The number is not consistent with what was mentioned as the number in this meeting.
We're talking about dollars or people.
A dollar number.
That's the correct number from the meeting.
I am not talking about the 23. I'm talking
I
about okay, the 9. The
Yeah.
9 was not.
That's the correct number from that meeting.
Okay.
Can I ask
So this is still just general conversation, we're not giving anything away.
Hypothetical.
I think we're.
So the other-
Hypothetical.
The other thing that was not listed here is that Heather
Oh.
was a voting member
did you stand there?
Okay,
in.
let's go into
In
non-public.
the actual meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think.
let's go into non-public.
Well, before we do that, I would simply like to ask, do we need to go into non-public? Does this need to be non-public anymore in light of
Well,
recent developments?
That was gonna be my comment
There's
as
a lot of
well.
other things mentioned.
Not that are
Yeah, but
Yeah,
non-public that
yeah,
I
there-
can see.
Yeah, there is,
Okay,
there is,
There's
Yep.
at least one. I
all
think.
right.
Yeah, that
yeah,
Yeah.
there is at least one.
Okay, but and I think I know what you're referring to, and, I suppose we can discuss that, but other than that, it would seem like the rest of these
Oh, yeah, I see it.
minutes should be, unsealed.
Yeah.
I've asked about that in the past, and you can't unseal part of them.
Yeah.
It was suggested if you want to do things like that, then you should go in and out for each particular topic. That's what I was told when I was requesting non-public minutes be unsealed. Anyways, can we?
Isn't that the
Think-
point of
I'm
making
okay approving
the
these.
final decision, like votes in public? Like we come out and then make a vote in public?
I think the question is, once everything in a non-public session has been made public, then you can unseal the minutes, or you should unseal them.
So you could make a motion, I suppose, to unseal the minutes except for, an item.
Can we accept Lisa's amendment without going into non-public? If it's just a procedural thing, right? Noting that as established in the meeting that preceded it, one of the alternates was elevated to a voting member, which continued into the non-public. I think that was all.
I don't know that answer. It's easy to go into non-public, have an open discussion, and then go out of, okay. So is there a motion to go into non-public?
If we can do it quickly, I'll
Yeah.
move,
Yeah.
also move.
Is there a second? Yeah,
Who seconded?
There hasn't been one.
who seconded? Lisa second, all in favor?
We have to roll call.
Roll call.
Yeah.
Doug? There's a
No,
motion.
He is not.
Oh,
He is not
oh,
elevated.
he's not voting.
Aye.
Rob? Aye. Heather?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Becky? Aye. Paul?
Aye.
Lise? Patrick?
Aye.
Okay, we're in non-public.
Not yet.
Not yet. We are not.
Turn your microphone.